Hi, guys. Welcome back. Today we are going to do a coaching impact podcast. So we talk about mostly coaching with keto, carnivore, ketovore, meat-based, animal-based, low carb, whatever you want to call it. That's what we do here. I am Nisha Salisbury. If you're new, I am a health coach. I have been an RN, LPN, CNA. I've been working in healthcare since I was 19. And I'm almost 39, so that's like almost 20 years, which is kind of insane. And this is my co-host,
Hey.
Kim Howerton.
Hello, everybody. I'm Kim Howerton, as Nisha had said, and I am a health coach and an author, and I focus on a lot about weight loss, a lot about general health, blood labs. I have been a health coach for 7 years, but I've been a life and other things coach for about 20.
Gosh. A lot of life here on this channel today. We
That's
got 40 years worth of some sort of knowledge.
I know
Okay,
about
guys.
things. Yeah.
We know about things. As you know, we are winding down 2024. So we thought we could talk to you about how we help our clients set goals. If you are not a health coach and you are just a person, this can probably help you too, because you can listen to what we're saying and take that and put it in your little 2025 box and maybe check some boxes off for setting your goals. So, Grace says, Nisha, I'm your biggest fan. That's so sweet. Oh, we're starting off on a high note here. So, Kim, talk us through what you like to tell your clients when they're closing out the year and starting to make goals for the next year.
Well, I think the first thing to do is actually like a year in review, right? Because it's really hard to set new goals if you don't know what happened with last year's goals.
Mm-hmm.
And so I usually say, like, let's take out a piece of paper and let's start answering some questions. And so people can do this on their own or they can do it with a coach. But it's answering questions like, what did I have a goal for last year? What was it? Or what were they? Right? Because a lot of times people might have multiple goals.
Right.
You can separate them into areas like finance, body, home, family, like whatever, however many areas you had those kinds of thoughts within, and say, yeah, how did I do? Just give yourself a little review, sort of like you are your boss, right? And, but like in a non-stressful way, and say, you can't fire yourself. So that's good or bad, depending. But, it's like, go through and ask each of those questions of yourself or of your clients and get like a real honest, like, and then, it's like, well, how did I do on, let's say my goal was to lose 100 pounds. Okay. How did that go? It didn't go great. I lost 0 pounds. Okay. Well, let's bookmark that as something to inquire about, because that's going to help you set up for next year. So what I might say is, well, why? Not in a like, why, what's wrong with you way, but like a, hey, what happened kind of way. And maybe it's like, oh, I got pregnant, right? Okay, well, that's a good reason, right? Why you might not have lost the weight you were trying and you're now about to give birth, right? So that's one, an example. But it might be, well, I did this and then I did that and then I did this and then I did that. And so you kind of can see the pattern of what happened, what didn't work. And so you can then use that information on next year's plan.
Yeah, so I have a worksheet, and if you're in the Proper Human Diet community, you have access to this worksheet this year. And it's a 2024 yearly review, and it has all the spots of all the things that Kim just talked about. So we reflect, reward for what we did good, and then revisit the things that didn't work and dive into why that didn't work. Because a lot of times myself included, we set these unrealistic goals for our fantasy self instead of setting realistic goals for our actual self. Like, what do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing? If you're not someone who likes to go to the gym, buying a gym membership may not be the goal you want to set. Maybe your goal would be doing, 5 push-ups once a day in your own home where there's nobody around and you're safe and you don't feel like people are staring at you. I hate the gym. I feel constantly judged for my skinny arms and like I'm never going there. It's never going to happen no matter how many times I buy a gym membership. So being realistic with your goal setting is mostly about being honest, I think, and being honest sometimes is uncomfortable, even if you want to be the gym rat. Are you though? And are you setting yourself up, to have a goal at the end of 2025 that you didn't meet? So making sure you are setting realistic goals for your actual true self. Not that you can't eventually move to the gym and become a gym person, but like maybe that's not the first step. Maybe the first step is just going for a walk once a day, doing as many push-ups as you can, whether that's wall push-ups, girl push-ups. I hate that term, but like that's what they're called. Or, and moving up to more intense exercising. And the reflection part is so important. People really skip right over that and just start
It's like the
setting goals.
most important part.
Yeah. And they just like, here's what I'm going to do in 2025. But if you don't look back, you can't understand where you're going to go because you can't see all the things that maybe tripped you up, so you can make a new and better plan. Every year, this plan is going to evolve and get better. So we also do dietary guidelines. In January, we're doing a consistency challenge, and it doesn't matter if you're keto, ketovore, carnivore, whatever. Setting your own boundaries, that's what's important. So if you're someone who's like, I'm going to be keto, you need to be pretty specific about what that looks like for you. Are you going to be keto product keto? Are you going to be whole food keto? How many carbs are you going to have? Are you going to prioritize protein? Like, get into the details a little bit when it comes to where your boundaries are. That's very important. So reflection, that's the first step. If you haven't done that, set aside time. You don't need my worksheet. Like Kim said, just get a notebook. Just get you a notebook, a piece of printer paper out of your printer, and just think about all the things you wanted to accomplish and what kept you from accomplishing those if you didn't accomplish them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then from those, you can set up, okay, well, based on how last year went, what do I want this year's goals to be? And maybe if you determined that some of your goals were a little bit fantasy based and not reality based, right? You're like, oh, I was making goals for a person that I am not that person, right? I am making goals for a fantasy person. Make sure they're a little more down to earth and maybe breaking them down. Maybe you were like, I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year. And maybe a goal that's more reasonable is 25. Or maybe it's not one of the mistakes I actually do think people make is that the goal is the destination. And in fact, the destination is important. You have to know what you ultimately want, but what you're actually should be tracking to is the journey, which is, okay, I want to lose 25 pounds. How am I going to do it? How am I going to eat? How am I going to sleep? What are all the things I need to pack in my bag to get where I want to go?
Mm-hmm.
And then you start tracking the actions, not the destination.
Yes. And again, I'm going to throw out there the book Atomic Habits. If you haven't read it, now is a very good time to start that book. You can download it on Audible if you're someone who doesn't want to sit down and take the time to read. Listen to it while you're going to work, during your commute, while you're putting away the dishes and doing the laundry. It will help you because that book is not about health, but you can use all the tools in that book to help you become more healthy with healthy habits. Grace says, Nisha, how do you stay so toned? You're in shape. I'm thin, but I want more energy. I follow keto and exercise. I'm 62. Well, Grace, I hate working out. So I had to find something that I knew I would do that was fun, that I enjoyed, and that I wouldn't continuously keep making excuses to get myself out of. So I've had all kinds of workout equipment. I've had a Peloton, I've had a treadmill, all the things. But walking outside with my kids, playing with my kids, they play at the playground while I do sprints, and only do a few. You only have to do a few sprints. Mark Sisson has talked about sprints. I don't even know how many times. It's amazing how good sprints are for your body. You don't have to run a marathon. Just do a few sprints. And if you haven't sprinted in a long time, don't start there. Just start walking. And then I also horseback ride, which sounds like you just sit on a horse, but no. I actively have to do workouts on top of a horse while it's moving and not have to fall off. So that's helped me a lot work on gaining some muscle and some strength. But mostly I'm concerned with bone density, as I am a very, very prone person to osteoporosis. Runs in my family, and I would really very much not want to get that in the future. What about you, Kim? Do you do work? I know you were going to the gym a lot. Are you still going to the gym?
I do go to the gym because I am more of a gym girly. I am intimidated, and it doesn't help that my gym is located very close to a university, which means that most of the people in my gym are indeed 21 years old. And, gravity and genetic, like all the good stuff, they still got all the good stuff. But I like lifting weights more than I like calisthenics type workouts. So I make the time to do that. I will admit that like the last 3 months I've been doing kind of a minimal workout, and my plan is to bump that back up because I feel better when I go a little harder.
Also, you have to remember what your goal is for working out versus what like our goal is. My goal is to not get osteoporosis and keep my bones strong. Where Robert Sykes his goal is to win, the medal for bodybuilding, right? And
right.
We all, what are you trying to get out of your workout, I guess?
Right. And for me, it's a combination of things, right? As someone who's lost 130 pounds, there's a lot of rebuild. Like there is just natural muscle loss as you lose weight that I'm trying to counteract along the way. But now that I'm kind of in a thinner body, it took a long time for me to really see I need to build this area a little more to match this area, just to balance things out a little bit. So I'm doing a little of that, but also the main driver, I wouldn't go just for that, to be honest. I'm looking at my relatives who are in their 80s and who's doing well and who's doing poorly. And a lot of it has to do with not how thin they are. Some of the ones not doing well are very thin. Yeah. It's how much they prioritized their fitness, their muscle strength over the years. And I don't like pain. And I would like to avoid, chronic back pain and hip issue. I'd like to avoid as many of those things as I can.
Yeah. So as a health coach, if you're a health coach watching this, that's something you want to ask your client when they're setting up their goals and they're like, I'm going to go to the gym for 3 days every week. You ask them why, so that they have a good reason that they're going. Because if they set up that goal, but they don't have a good reason in mind, then the odds of them sticking to it are way less. Even if they want to go, if you don't push them a little bit more to label that, well, I'm going to the gym 3 days a week because whatever. And if their reason is just weight loss, try to push them to add a little bit more strength. And I want to win the geriatric Olympics, meaning I don't want to go to the nursing home when I'm 80. I want to be able to stay at home, because what you do now is setting yourself up for what happens to you when you are, an octogenarian.
Yeah. And that's one of the top reasons people end up in a nursing home. It's not that they have a major health crisis. It's that they can't get off the toilet.
Exactly. So when you're going to the gym on your days where you're like, I hate this, it sucks, remind yourself it's not just for who you are today. It's for who you're going to be in 20, 30, 40 years, depending on your age. And keeping that goal in the forefront of your mind too can really help, because that helps me. When I'm like, I don't want to do this, I'm like, yeah, but I want to be able to get in the shower on my own, and I want to go to the bathroom on my own and put on my own clothes. And I worked in a nursing home. I'm not going. I put my foot down. All right. Coach Jen says, I was intimidated at first, but started using Fitbod app and became a lot more confident. Yeah.
There are lots of apps out there these days.
Absolutely. And the more you work out at home, then you don't feel like such a novice when you walk into Gold's Gym or whatever gym, Planet Fitness. because then you like at least have an idea of what you're walking in there to do, as opposed to like, what do I do with all this equipment? I don't know. I guess I'll just walk on the treadmill for an hour.
Right. Very common thing that people end up doing.
Yes. CJMS, I do water exercise and lots of running in the water, running backwards. Water aerobics is a good one. I will say, need to do a little bit of weight bearing activity too, because that's not going to keep your bones as strong as weight bearing activity. So just keep that in mind. You can still do water exercise, but hello.
You got both dogs came over. Hello. You're like Dr. Doolittle. Yeah. And, but stuff in the pool is great if you're like so heavy, maybe that, it's hard on your joints to exercise. It can be, or if you're injured, like the water can be a great, adjunct tool.
Yeah, it's really good. That's why it's used so commonly in physical therapy, because it's a gentle introduction for those people who like need to start there. Carrie says, my goal at the moment is to be able to walk my dog. I have 2 canes, 2 walkers, and a lovely large wheelchair. I turned 65 on the 29th. Realistic goals seem ridiculous to me right now. Yeah, Let's
talk about the word realistic, though.
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. The word realistic is not someone else's reality. They're your reality.
That's
realistic
right.
Is actually the important word.
Yes.
So if you're currently walking with 2 canes, right? Like, because if I look at those things, right? So the walker is more mobile than the wheelchair. So my guess is, because you only have 2 hands, right? So I don't think you're using 2 canes and the walker at the same time, right? So you are at least capable of walking with 2 canes for some length of time, is what it sounds like. So then I might say, okay, well, that's the most mobile I can be. Well, maybe right now I can walk for 90 seconds. All right, would it be realistic to say maybe I can try for 2 minutes a day? Just bump it up 30 seconds. And then once you can walk with both canes for some period of time, can you walk with 1 cane at all, right? So it's incremental. That's what might be realistic, right, Nisha?
Realistic means that's subjective. What's realistic for me is not realistic for Kim, and vice versa. Like, I would love to go to a Pilates class. That is an unrealistic goal for me, since there is not a Pilates class anywhere near me, and my house cannot accommodate a Pilates machine. And even if it could, I wouldn't know what to do with it, right? So that's not a realistic goal for me. But Kim lives in Berkeley, and there's probably 40 Pilates studios in her area. So, like, realistic subjective. Don't feel like my realistic, what I'm saying, applies to you. It doesn't. What's realistic for you? Meaning, in reality, what improvements can you make in the next 30 days? That's reality. If you're trying to set a goal that's for a year from now, that's not realistic. When you get to the end of 2025, your goals, hopefully, will be able to evolve with you, because you'll be healthier. You will have been more consistent with your dietary guidelines. Your lab markers probably are going to be improved if you're staying consistent. And you're going to have, a whole year of success, at least improvements behind you to keep you rolling. So reality today is different from reality in 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. So just like give yourself some grace. Just because your goals aren't to run a marathon, that doesn't mean that they're not really good goals for you.
Right. Absolutely.
Speaking of Pilates, Sheila says, I've been doing club Pilates. It's been great for me. I hear it's wonderful. And the women who do Pilates look amazing. There's got to be something. I don't know what they're doing in there, but it must be good.
I did Pilates in college. But a lot of the Pilates moves can just be done on the floor without the reformer. That's what that machine is called. but the reformer is really the like resistance training part of the
Yeah.
Pilates experience.
What I know is I'm not going to do that unless I'm walking into a class and I feel the pressure of everyone
Yeah.
around me and the instructor
Yeah.
telling me to do the things. Like if I'm left to
Yeah,
my own
for sure.
devices, I'm not going to do it. I just know myself. That's my
I
fantasy.
agree. Those machines look like torture devices as well. So
They do, don't they? Like if
right?
you
Like
just
the
walked
rack.
in and a Pilates machine was sitting there and you didn't know what it was, you'd be like, "Oh, am I safe here? I'm going to run away now." Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about setting goals for stress management.
Sure.
What do you talk to your clients about? Because I feel like this often goes overlooked in this time of the year, and we're mostly like thinking positive thoughts, even though we know the next year is going to bring new things, new stressful situations, and preparing ahead of time can be helpful. How do you get your clients to think about those things ahead of time?
I think stress management is the thing we skimp on the most in our society, probably, because we have sort of a like pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I should be able to handle it kind of thought process when we're evaluating these things. But the reality is, stress is the thing that most likely is going to derail you on your journey. It's not that you lack willpower; it's that you lack strategies for managing anything but perfection. Right?
Mhm.
Like in our mind, we often think it's gonna go optimally, and nothing life does not go optimally. And so stress is that common denominator that we need to evaluate. And so, and that is for me in my life and many of my clients' lives, probably the number one cause of, I would say, out of character eating, right? Like eating off plan, eating things that you wouldn't normally eat, eating amounts that you normally wouldn't eat at times you wouldn't, like all of that. That stress eating is the great derailer, and usually at the core of that is stress of one kind or another. Stress comes in many forms. Stress can be good stress. Stress can be I'm incredibly
Sure.
busy because so
Yeah.
many good things are happening.
Let's assume we're talking about negative stress that
Okay.
we don't want.
So negative stress, we don't have good coping mechanisms in this world for stress besides eating. At least some of us don't, right? Eating or spending or some type of consumption, right? And so if we don't put things in place in our plan that will manage stress, then we just put a big like pothole in the middle of our road.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people often say, like, I'm going to decrease my stress. And let me tell you, sister, no, you cannot decrease your stress because you don't know when that's
Life
going to
will
come.
laugh.
Yeah, haha, life going to life you. Life going to life you so hard right out the blue. Trust me. So what you really want to say is, I want to manage my stress appropriately and cope with my stress in a way where the stress doesn't interfere with my health. And so like setting some goals for when I feel stressed out, what am I going to do about that when I pick up, whatever food it is that's your comfort food, and how
Right.
am I going to set it back down? How do you think is the best way to deal with stress eating in the moment? Like, what can you do in the moment when you are stressed out and you want to grab the Twinkie or Ding Dong or Doritos
Right.
or whatever? What
Well,
should you
I
do?
would say if you are stressed out, stay out of the kitchen and stay out of the grocery store or
Mhm.
convenience food store. Like, do something else instead. I'm a big substituter, right? So it's like, I'm noticing I really want to go get a cookie. Okay, I'm going to go for a walk instead.
Go the
Or,
opposite direction.
right, I really want to go get a cookie. I'm just fill in whatever your word of choice is, right? I Instead, I'm going to call Nisha, right? Or, hey, I really want to do this. Hey, I'm going to go read a book. So have a substitute behavior for those moments. And every time you find yourself one step into that kitchen, or putting on your coat to go or picking up your phone for Uber Eats, like as you find yourself, that's the moment. Like, here's my, like, I like to think of things as like steps back. So it's, if you're touching the food, it's too late. I mean, it's never too late, but it's but it's gum, but real hard now.
Gross.
Like if you have the cookie in your hand, right? Bad time to think, what are my alternatives? But if
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I don't yet have my thing, you cannot eat something you aren't touching.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what can I do to keep myself from putting my little hands on the little foods? So yeah.
I think also it's good to be proactive. Like right now, everybody is, well, after Christmas, everybody's going to be ready to hit the ground running. And if you start implementing habits now, when those times arise, you will have a good foundation. What I mean by that is like if every time you sit down to a meal, you just go, if you want to say you're grateful for it or just question yourself, like whatever works for you, because everybody's different. Questioning your food could be a trigger for some people. What I mean by that is like, is this food serving me and my body? Is this food serving my health goals? How am I going to feel after I eat this? Am I okay? Now, am I going to consume this food? Am I okay with doing that? So, like, if everything on your plate is within your dietary guidelines that you set for yourself, then those questions are good. If it's not, at least you're in the habit now of going, how am I going to feel after I eat this? Honestly, is this serving my health goals? Honestly, am I going to feel better about the stress that I have now or worse? Honestly. And if you've already been asking yourself that about healthy plates and you get to the unhealthy thing, then you're going to be a little bit, your brain's pre programmed to be like, hey, hey. And then you still might eat it, but like, at least you're taking that step to go, wait a minute, do I really want to do this? When you're sitting in the drive-thru and you want to order whatever it is that you're going to order that you know is like not going to serve your health goals, just getting your brain to at least acknowledge that this isn't
Right.
this isn't what you said you were going to do, and taking that moment to acknowledge that fact, and whether or not you move forward or not, like, we don't know how bad is your day and do you just want to indulge for the moment. But even if you do, you're immediately going to be like, oh,
That
okay,
was
back
not a
to
choice I want to
it.
repeat. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, learn my lesson, back to it. And that's okay too, because most people, especially if this is your first year really getting back to it, like, you're going to have some slip ups. There are no rules. You do not have to do anything special, but just get back to it. That's it.
Yeah. And then I think also incorporating protective strategies around stress can also be very helpful. Because as Nisha very intelligently said, you can't stop stress from coming in, but you can make yourself stronger around how you deal with stress. Things like including meditation in your life, therapy, if that's something you feel like would be beneficial. It is for most people. Journaling, like putting things in, exercise, right? So putting things into your schedule, into your daily, weekly schedule that are actually stress release valves
Yeah.
and make you stronger. It's like taking your mental vitamins to protect your stress immune system.
Yes. No, that is amazing. Yeah. And I always say this, but I'm going to say it again. My granny always said, idle hands are devil's handiwork, meaning like if you're bored, your weakness is going to call upon you, basically. Like the thing that you don't want to do is going to be the first thing that you turn to. So if you want to start a hobby in 2025, do that too, because that's not only going to like fulfill you, it's also a tool in your toolbox for those times when you're bored and you want to eat, but you're not really hungry. And we all know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, then you're lying. You're lying.
Right.
Boredom makes people eat a lot. You're sitting there, you're watching your show, and you're like, I think I'll eat something. But you can watch TV and color in a coloring book. You can watch TV and like learn to knit. You can watch TV and play Candy Crush, like whatever it is that gives your hand something to do to take your mind off of that, like, don't you want a snacky snack? And then like if you're truly hungry, then yeah, go eat. But I think we all know what I'm talking about when I say eating out of boredom or habit.
And people, I will often have clients when I'm like talking about emotional eating. They're like, "No, I don't emotionally eat. I just eat when I'm bored." And I always have to remind them, boredom
Bored
is an
is an
emotion.
emotion.
It indeed is. It's
Mhm.
being bored is very uncomfortable for a lot of people, and
Yeah,
so they have to fill that in. And so food is a great way to fill it in. But yeah, boredom is emotional. Boredom eating is emotional eating. You don't have to be like crying,
right.
while you eat it to be emotional about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nopal had a comment saying, do you see that one? Yeah, it's not easy when this is like the only thing other than prayer, the only thing that makes you happy, safe, that eating. I totally identify with that because I had my first major bout of depression when I was 7. And the only thing that made me feel better was eating because I didn't yet have any of the skills I needed to deal with a pretty serious experience of out of control emotionality.
Mm.
And so I'm never going to say, because I will honestly say, I think for me at the time, it was the best option I knew how to employ. And was I a little bit better off in the short term eating a cookie than, jumping off the patio? I don't know, whatever, yeah.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't blame myself. I don't shame myself. I don't blame or shame anyone else for utilizing what they have available to themselves. But when you get older, as you age, as you become an adult, we're a little more capable, I think, of saying to ourselves, I this is what's in my toolbox right now, but I do have the capability of expanding my toolbox, of adding skills because I have learned to do lots of things in my life. And Nepal, you can learn new skills and it won't be overnight and won't be easy, but like add one thing, like one alternative thing that you can do when you're upset that isn't eating
Right.
or praying.
And
I mean, not that praying is bad, but like, we're
right.
adding. You know how to do those things. Let's add one more thing and then maybe another, and then you can just keep adding to the list.
Yeah. And just know that people have come back from these situations. It can be done. You're not the only one who's been here. You're not the only one who's hit rock bottom if that's where you are. I'm not saying you are, but like you don't have to feel like you're the only one who's ever done this. People have done this. People have learned. It sucks. No one said it's going to be easy. And if they did, they're lying and trying to sell you something, okay? It's not going to be easy, especially if you're someone who has suffered with depression, anxiety, eating disorders, like all the dark places. It is never easy to claw your way back out of that hole, but it can be done. You just have to put in the painful work, and it is painful. Every day is going to suck, but it will suck a little less as opposed to the alternative, which is sucking more and more until you just like give up. So, like, always think, what's the alternative? And is that what you want? And if it's not, then you got to take that, even if it's a tiny step. Take a tiny step towards a tiny bit better, even if it's painful, because it's pain either way. But one pain has a light at the end of the tunnel.
Right. For sure.
What does Gail say? Postmenopausal poor sleep is my issue. Yeah, we hear that a lot. Since hysterectomy at age 46, age 62 now, and still not sleeping well. Stress, hives?
Stress. I don't know what he,
How,
yes.
how do I get a good night's sleep? Okay, so it
Yeah.
sounds like you have hormone
Yeah.
problems. From,
Dysregulation.
yeah, Kim is more of a guru on this than I am.
Because
So I'm
I'm
going to let
older. No. Yeah. So the thing is that it is well known that when your hormones go, specifically estrogen is the first one in concert with progesterone. But if you had a hysterectomy without, but they left your ovaries in, something, you will still continue to produce hormones if you weren't yet in menopause. However, one thing they never tell you is that the uterus supplies blood to the ovaries, blood supply. And so if they removed your uterus, even though for some time you will continue to produce hormones, you will go into menopause on average 4 years earlier than people that still have their uterus. And so you were either in menopause at that time or very soon thereafter, and your hormonal regulation is declining. You're already going to be in perimenopause at that point anyway. And sleep is one of the first things that for a lot of people gets disrupted, because our sleep wake cycles, those are very much affected by our sex hormones. And so the answer for me is to go to see a good, either a kind of a good OBGYN who covers hormones, or see a specifically hormone related doctor around, taking some type of exogenous hormone help. The issue is that you generally want to, although it's not 100%, you generally want to start hormonal therapy within the first 10 years of menopause, hopefully sooner than that. But from that point forward, it's kind of case by case whether it's as safe to take hormones. The reason is it's been a very long time since you've had a cycle, and you've been kind of it's not like you have no hormones, but you're very different from where you were. There can be an increased risk of, I believe, blood clots by restarting much later in your life. And so that's what they're looking out for. But a one-on-one conversation with a doctor around your personal risks would be something helpful, because some people are still candidates for that. Besides that, if you're not a candidate for taking hormones, then that's something that you're just looking at, like overall sleep hygiene issues. If you can try and help regulate those things, such as getting off of devices a couple hours before bed, making sure your room is cool, making sure your room is dark, making sure you don't have like pets on the bed with you and a husband who snores and a whatever, sleep. There is such thing as a sleep divorce, which is you sleep in separate bedrooms, but you're married all day. Those can be helpful for some people. And so finding ways to optimize sleep still exist. Taking magnesium can be helpful for some people. So there's all the normal kind of, everybody can use them, sleep hacks. But I would include on that list, even if you think I might be a little old, or not old, but it's been a little far since menopause, still talking to a specialist to see if there's some tweak that could maybe work for you.
Yeah. Who on YouTube talks a lot about it? Is it Dr. Elizabeth Bright that does a lot of the menopause?
Well, she does menopause stuff without hormones, so that might be something to look at. So Elizabeth Bright does, she kind of uses the carnivore diet and a high fat diet, very high fat carnivore, as a way to get some hormonal regulation. And then if you want to learn more about hormones, Dr. Mary Heaver is a good one.
Yeah. Hormones are very, like, if you want to start really getting serious, you do need to work with a provider, because where you're at versus whoever is on YouTube is talking about in the moment, like, that's very person specific, woman specific. So it seems like you've had a hard time for a long time.
Yeah.
And we want you to get some sleep. So yeah, definitely go see someone and ask as many questions as possible.
Absolutely. And if you haven't read Dr. Matthew Walker's book on sleep, that's a good place to start on kind of maybe fixing some lifestyle stuff around sleep.
Sorry, I normally do put Kim's links, but Alyssa was helping me, and Alyssa's about to have a baby. So I will put Kim's links in the description after we're done. But for those of you just joining us, because somebody was like, who dat? This is Kim Howerton, and she's a health coach, and she's written multiple cookbooks. We've wrote a cookbook together, Our Keto Holiday Cookbook. Oh, do you have it? There it is, Our Keto Holidays. That's on Amazon, so you can grab that. And it's got really good recipes. If you're still looking for some, delicious recipes for Christmas time, you can check that one out. Also, she wrote Common Sense Labs with Dr. Barry, also on Amazon. And she has a website. It's kimhowerton.com. So if you want to check her out, kimhowerton.com. Very easy to find her if you just,
My name
Go.
is very phonetic.
It
Sounds
really
just
is.
like
It's
it
way
sounds.
easier than mine. But I will put the links. And afterwards, someone thinks I am going to hell, I think.
But no, they think they said Jesus loves you. I don't,
Well,
you know.
yeah, but okay. I don't know what's going on. I am already religious, DA. You don't need to save me. Jesus did that already. Okay. So the main thing I want you guys to do in the next few weeks is get ahead of the New Year's resolution thing. Like, don't wait till January 30 or no, December 31st to be writing down your goals. Give yourself plenty of time for that reflection phase because that can take a good week because you're going to keep coming up with things, especially when you're writing them down. Like, you'll be brushing your teeth and be like, oh, you know what? I said I was going to do blah, blah, blah. And I didn't do that. Why? Why didn't I do that? What can I do to do that this year? If you do continue to want to do that thing, like maybe you decided that was stupid and you don't want to do it again, and then write that down too. Like, I thought I wanted to read 500 books this year. Turns out that was a dumb goal, and I don't because that made it very stressful to read,
Yet
whatever.
that's a great one. Don't think you have to pick up a goal for this year that you didn't accomplish last year.
Yes.
If it's not really something you think you want, I mean, maybe it's something you think you want, like if you'd like to win the lottery, you think you want, but not like you want to do the work.
Yeah, if you put a goal last year and I mean you didn't even get close to hitting it, reevaluate that and be like, did I want this? Or did I just think I should have wanted this? Because that's a real thing. You may have felt pressure from friends, family, YouTube, social media to do a thing, and you decided that's not for you. And then don't count that as a fail. Count that as like realizing that that just wasn't for you right now, and maybe revisit that in another year or
That's
in
a
the
big
next 6
win.
months. Yeah, because
Yeah, to
you like
realize that.
understood something about yourself. For instance, like maybe you thought you'd be carnivore all of 2024 and you realized that you actually don't like carnivore at all and it made you want to eat all the bad things, and keto actually was really sustainable and helped you.
Win.
That's a win because you're
Yeah.
like, oh, that just didn't work for me. And that's okay. Okay. Not carnivore doesn't work for everybody right out of the gate, and it doesn't work for everybody anyways. But like some people need to go through a few stages of like cutting things out before they can just give it all up and eat steak or ground beef every day. That's okay. You didn't fail. You just gave yourself a little education on where you are right now. Do you see any questions?
No, but I have like a sentence that, which is, the proper human diet is a spectrum, not a hierarchy.
Yes.
Right? Like people tend to think it is a pyramid. It's
Because well, to be fair, that is put out there a lot. I mean, now we have the food pyramid turned into the carnivore pyramid. And like, if you're not carnivore, then you're not at the top. And like, that's not really what that represents. What that represents is elimination. Like, how far do you need to go in eliminating other things to have your optimum health? And like maybe you don't have to go all the way up to have
right.
optimal health, and that's okay. That doesn't mean you're not as good as everybody. You're not in the cool kids clique. All right, neither am I. It's okay. Neither is Kim.
I'm not the cool. I'm not a cool kid. I'll just say it now. Jennifer has a good question.
All right, Jennifer says, I'm currently taking the Primal course, worried I won't be able to find a job or use it. Thoughts, scared to branch out on my own. You go first, Kim.
So it's a good, I don't want to sound weird. It's a good fear. It's a good thing to be thinking of. Don't be afraid, but it's a good thought because getting a certification does not equal getting a job, right? They're not the equivalent. And
Right.
so it's a good thing to be thinking about right now, to be thinking about, okay, how am I going to turn this into a career rather than, use it in just like I have some letters after my name. And so what I would say is start looking at, well, what drove me to getting that certification? what did I want to accomplish with that? You say I won't be able to get a job or use it. So what I would say there is, what do you want? Do you want to work for somebody else? Right? That's getting a job, right? Or do you want to go out on your own as a coach? Or, so there are different things. So this is a great time while you're taking the course to start to internally investigate. Do I want to work for for somebody else? Do I want to work in a doctor's office? Do I want to see people in person? How do I want to use the internet to find clients? Like, what would work in your life? What would you love? And then from there, when you know that about yourself, then say, okay, well, how will I build that? Is it about making contacts because I'm looking for a job for somebody else? Is it about meeting other people in the field that might introduce you to someone who could help you? Or is it, hey, I'm more of an independent soul. I want to go out on my own. Okay. How will people know about me? How will people find me? So now is a great time to do that kind of investigation.
Yeah. Jennifer, I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say, listen, people, unfortunately, people aren't getting very healthy very quickly. So you've picked a good career choice. With the caveat, of course, that you're going to have to work to build your clientele and your audience. Kim and myself and Alyssa are putting together a masterclass where we dive into how to know what your niche is, how to find your ideal client, marketing business 101, and making that first call, which we call what's the term, everybody? What is the term?
Now I had it, and as soon as you asked me, my brain went bloop.
Discovery
it's an
call.
onboarding call.
Discovery call, onboarding call.
Yeah.
That's where you figure out, is this person a good fit for me as a health coach? Am I a good fit as a health coach for this person? And like making the most of that phone call, what good questions to ask. And we're going to give you worksheets and stuff like that. So if you are a health coach and you want a little more niche down information, that masterclass is going to be coming in January. Stick around. We'll make sure you know when it's coming.
We'll put up some notes.
Yeah, the healthcare is a big business for a reason. Americans are sick. No, not a cold call. A cold call is where you just randomly call people and say, hey, you want to buy my thing?
Susan, I found you in the paper. Yeah, no.
A discovery call is a free phone call that someone sets up with you on your website after they heard about you and they want to just talk to you and ask you a few questions. Cold calling, please don't ever do that. If someone tells you to do that, you just don't listen because they don't know what they're talking about. That is awful. Please don't do that to your clients. Please don't do that to anybody. That's a good way to not make any money or get any business ever because it's basically harassment. Please don't call. Yeah, don't cold call. No, we talk just how this person reaches out to you. They want to talk to you about health coaching. But yeah, anyways, Make America Healthy Again is what my hat says. It's going to take a hot minute and a lot of health coaches. Yeah. So as long as you have the grit and the tenacity and you are ready to put in the work to build a business, you're going to be okay. It's just going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. There's no quick fix to anything in life unless you do win the lottery. And then you're probably going to lose a lot of money along the way.
Right. Yeah. And so it's very much about that discovery call, but even that, how do you get them to discover you, right? To need that discovery call. So we'll also be talking a bit about getting people to notice you. How do you build that, recognition and trust and, those kinds of things. So we want to be able to help people. So we'll definitely be doing that in the new year.
Yep. But you can just hang out here on my channel. Me and Kim are going to be here talking about that before it goes live. It will be a live cohort course. So it's not just like you buy it and go through it and read it on your own. There'll be some pre-recorded things, but we'll also be talking to you on a Zoom live stream call, doing Q&A during it too. So it's not just you click and then you're done. We're going to be there to answer some questions also during a Zoom call. Marnie Mac says, wow, Kim, that was good.
What did I say?
I know, right? Maybe
she recorded. I'm like, what did I say?
What? It was good. Whatever Marnie's talking about, it was good. All right, guys, we are nearly done here. So I just want to remind you to share this with another health coach if you have friends that are health coaches. If you want to hire a health coach, share this with a friend who doesn't know what health coaches do. You know, who's looking for a health coach? People really don't understand what health coaches do. The main purpose of a health coach is to help you help yourself, because most people just need that extra layer of support, accountability, and someone to ask them the right questions that they didn't realize they needed to ask themselves. So that's what health coaches are. They support you. They help you advocate for yourself in the doctor's office, because a lot of times you think you need a keto doctor. Really, you need a health coach to help you know what to ask your not keto doctor, because it's just about the questions you ask, how you present this stuff, learning how to use tools in your toolbox, new tools, and just coming armed and confident into that doctor's office, knowing you're the boss, because you are. You have patient rights, and it's 100% your decision whether or not you want to go on a medication, what diet you want to eat. Like, the doctor's not your daddy, like Dr. Berry says. They're not your daddy.
No. And expecting your doctor to know everything about everything is actually a little bit cruel sometimes. They have a specialty, but that specialty might not be the specific thing you are working on right now. And that's a place where you can work with them as a partner rather than insist they think exactly the way you think.
Yeah, exactly. And who knows, working with you might turn them into a keto doctor after a certain amount of time.
For sure.
Choosing to Live says, cool. Can we join that class before we get certified? Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just an extra layer of learning some more specific skills. Like, if you're taking Primal or any other health coaching class, they cover some of the stuff we covered, but like briefly. So we're basically just diving a little deeper into those subjects because they're important. And a lot of people come out of a certification course feeling very confident that they are a health coach, but then going like, okay, now where do I find clients? Now what? Yeah. So that's kind of what this class is about. Yeah.
And you don't even need to be to even have started a certification to join us, because I coached for quite a while before I had a health certification.
Mm-hmm.
I had other certifications in coaching, but I think, even if you're like, hey, I want to know what I'm getting into before I sign up for anything, then there you go.
Yep. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys hanging out with us. You can find Kim Howerton at kimhowerton.com, and you can subscribe to my channel here for more information. I'm going to be doing a video about our challenge coming up in January in the Proper Human Diet community. If you want to join that, stick around. And are you active on Instagram, Kim Howerton?
I am active. Well, I should be a little. I still have an Instagram account and I post occasionally. I'll say it that way. I also have a YouTube account, which I'm going to start actually using more. So these things exist. You can subscribe so that when I actually do the things I'm supposed to do, you will find out.
Okay, so Kim's 2025 goal is to be more active on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make her do that. So
I'm also planning a complete teardown and redo, not like teardown, but my goal for 2025 is to be completely unpolished, unapologetic, real. And I feel like some of my stuff's a little too polished. And I'm like, I don't want to, meh. It's not where I'm at.
Well, I tried that, and then I was like, you know what? People don't actually care as much about the polished as much as they care about
the intro music is not the important part of this video.
Yes, exactly. Rush says, my 2025 goal is to be less active on social media. I love that for you, Rush.
Absolutely.
I love that.
And I think there's a difference between being a producer and a consumer. And I think all of us could be a little bit less of a consumer.
I don't consume. I literally post, and then I'm gone. I'm reading a book. I'm doing something else. It's boring, honestly. No one inspires me anymore on the internet. I'm only inspired by books. So that's where I'm spending my 2025. Anyways, go follow Kim's YouTube channel, subscribe, because she's going to be active on there now.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time. Bye.